Hello everyone. Today we discuss about foods to avoid with kidney disease. If you have kidney disease, it's important to watch your intake of sodium, potassium and phosphorus. Foods that contain high amounts include cola, brown rice, bananas, processed meats and dried fruits also. Now, your kidneys perform many important functions, including filtering your blood, removing waste through urine, producing hormones, balancing minerals, and maintaining fluid balance also. When your kidneys become damaged and cannot function properly, fluid can build up in your body and waste can accumulate in your blood. So, a kidney friendly diet and avoiding or limiting certain foods can help decrease the accumulations of waste products in your blood and improve your kidney functions and prevent further damage. So, here are 17 foods you should try to limit or avoid on a kidney diet. Number one, dark colored soda. In addition to the calories and sugar that sodas provide, they harbor additives that contain phosphorus, especially dark colored sodas. Many food and beverage manufacturers add phosphorus during processing to enhance flavor and prolong shelf life and prevent discolorations. Your body absorbs these added phosphorus more than natural animal based or plant based phosphorus. Unlike natural phosphorus, phosphorus in the form of phosphorus in the form of uh, additives is not bound to protein, rather, it's found in the form of salt and is highly absorbable or absorbable by the intestinal tract. Among additives, phosphorus can typically be found in a product's ingredients list. However, food manufacturers are not required to list the exact amount of additive phosphorus on the label, while additive phosphorus content varies depending on the type of soda. A 12 ounce, that is OZ, or 355 milliliters ml cola contains 33.5 mg of phosphorus. As a result, sodas, especially those that are dark, should usually be avoided on a renal diet. Dark colored sodas should be avoided on a renal diet as they contain phosphorus in its additive form, which is highly absorbable by the human body. Keep your kidneys healthy for years to come. Now, number two, avocados. Avocados are often touted for their many nutritious qualities and including heart healthy fats, fiber and antioxidants. While avocados are usually a healthy addition to the diet, they are considered one of the high potassium foods to avoid these kidney disease. In fact, one average sized avocado provides a whopping 690 mg of potassium. By reducing the portion size to one fourth of an avocado, people with kidney disease can still include this food in their diets while limiting potassium if needed. Avocados, including guacamole, should be limited or avoided on a renal diet if you have been told to watch your potassium intake. However, remember that different individuals have different needs, and your overall diet and health goals are the most important thing to consider. Consider avoiding avocados on a renal diet if a doctor or dietitian has advised you to lower your potassium intake. Number three, canned foods. Canned foods such as soups, vegetables, and beans are often purchased because of their low cost and convenience. However, most canned foods contain high amounts of sodium as salt is added as a preservative to increase its shelf life. Due to this amount of sodium found in canned goods, it's often recommended that people with kidney disease avoid or limit their consumption. Choosing lower sodium varieties or those labeled no salt added is typically best. Additionally, draining and rising canned foods such as canned beans and tuna fish can significantly decrease the sodium content. Canned foods are often high in sodium. Avoiding, limiting, or buying low sodium varieties is likely the best to reduce your overall sodium consumption. Number 4, whole wheat bread. Choosing the right bread can be confusing for individuals with kidney disease. For healthy individuals, whole wheat bread is usually recommended over refined white flour bread. Whole white bread may be more nutritious, mostly due to its higher fiber content. However, white bread is usually recommended over whole white varieties for individuals with kidney disease. This is because of its phosphorus and potassium content. The more bran and whole grains in the bread, the higher the phosphorus and potassium contents. For example, a regular slice of 36 grams serving of a whole white bread contains about 76 mg of phosphorus and 90 mg of potassium. In comparison, a regular slice that is 28 gram of white bread contains approximately 32 mg of phosphorus and potassium. Eating one slice of whole wheat bread instead of two can help lower your potassium and phosphorus intake without giving up whole wheat bread entirely. Note that most bread and bread products, regardless of whether they are white or whole wheat, also contain relatively high amounts of sodium. It's best to compare the nutritious labels of various types of bread. Choose a lower sodium option if possible and monitor your portion sizes also. Now, white bread is typically recommended over whole white bread on a renal diet due to its lower phosphorus and potassium levels. All bread contains sodium, so it's best to compare food levels and choose a lower sodium variety. Number 5, brown rice. Like whole wheat bread, brown rice is a whole grain that has a higher potassium and phosphorus content than its white rice counterpart. Each cup, that is 155 gram of cooked brown rice, contains 149 mg of phosphorus and 95 mg of potassium, while one cup, that is 186 gram of cooked white rice, contains only 69 mg of phosphorus and 54 mg of potassium. You may be able to feed brown rice into a renal diet, but only if the portion is controlled and balanced with other foods to avoid an excessive daily intake of potassium and phosphorus. Now, brown rice has a high content of phosphorus and potassium and will likely need to be portion controlled or limited on a renal diet. White rice are all good alternatives. Now, number six, bananas. Bananas are known for their high potassium content, while naturally low in sodium. One medium banana provides 422 mg of potassium. If you have been instructed to limit your potassium intake, it may not be easy if a banana is a daily staple. Unfortunately, many other tropical fruits have high potassium content as well. However, pineapple contains substantially less potassium than other tropical fruits and can be a more suitable yet tasty alternatives also. Now, banana are a rich source of potassium and may need to be limited on a renal diet. Pineapple is a kidney friendly fruit as it contains much less potassium than certain other tropical fruits. Number 7, dairy. Dairy products are rich in various vitamins and nutrients. They are also a high protein fruit and a natural source of phosphorus and potassium. For example, one cup, that is 240 ml of whole milk, provides 205 mg of phosphorus and 322 mg of potassium. Yet, consuming too much dairy in conjunction with other phosphorus rich foods can be detrimental to bone health in those with kidney disease. This may sound surprisingly, as milk and dairy are often recommended for strong bones and muscle health. However, when the kidneys are damaged, too much phosphorus consumption can cause a buildup of phosphorus in the blood, pulling calcium from your bones. This can make your bones thin and weak over time and increase your risk of bone breakage of fracture. Dairy products are also high in protein. Each cup, that is 240 ml of whole milk, provides nearly 8 gram of protein. It may be important to limit dairy intake to avoid the buildup of protein waste in the blood. Dairy alternatives like unenriched rice milk and almond milk are much lower in potassium, phosphorus, and protein than cow's milks, making them a good substitute for milk while on a renal diet. Dairy products contains high amounts of phosphorus, potassium and protein and should be limited to a renal diet. Despite milk's high calcium content, its phosphorus content may weaken bones in those with kidney disease. Number 8, oranges and orange juice. While oranges and orange juice are arguably most well known for their vitamin C content, they are also rich sources of potassium. One large orange, that is 184 gram, provides 333 mg of potassium. Moreover, there are 458 mg of potassium in one cup, that is 250 ml of orange juice. Given their potassium content, oranges and orange juice likely need to be avoided or limited on a renal diet. Grapes, apples, and cranberries, as well as their respective juices, are all good substitutes for oranges and orange juice as they have lower potassium content. Orange and orange juice are high in potassium and should be limited to a renal diet. Try grapes, apples, cranberries, or their juices instead. Number 9. Processed meats. Processed meats have long been associated with chronic diseases and are generally considered unhealthy due to their representatives' contents. Processed meats are meats that have been salted, dried, cured, and canned. Some examples include hot dogs, bacon, pepperoni, jerky, and sausage. Processed meats typically contain large amounts of salt, mostly to improve their taste and preserve flavor. Therefore, it may not be easy to keep your daily sodium intake to less than 2030 mg if processed meats are abundant in your diet. Additionally, processed meats are high in protein. If you have been told to monitor your protein intake, it's important to limit processed meats for this reason as well. Processed meats are high in salt and protein and should be consumed in moderation on a renal diet. Number 10. Pickles, olives, and relish. Pickles, processed olives, and relish are all examples of cured or cured or pickled foods. Usually, large amounts of salt are added during these curing or pickling process. For example, one pickle spear can contain around 283 mg of sodium, unlike there are 244 mg of sodium in 2 tablespoons, that is 30 gram of sweet pickle relish. Processed olives also tend to be salty as they are cured and fermented to taste less bitter. 5 green pickles olives provide about 211 mg of sodium and significant portion on the daily amount in the only a small serving. Many grocery stores stock reduced sodium varieties of pickles, olives, and relish which contain less sodium than their traditional counterparts. However, even reduced sodium options can still be high in sodium, so you will still want to watch your portions also. Pickles, processed olives, and relish are high in sodium and should be limited on a renal diet. Number 11. Apricots. Apricots are rich in vitamin C, vitamin A, and fiber. They are also high in potassium. Each cup, that is 165 gram of fresh sliced apricots, provides 427 gram mg of potassium. Furthermore, the potassium content is even more concentrated in dried apricots. Just one cup, that is 130 gram of dried apricots, provides over 1500 mg of potassium. This means that just one cup of dried apricots provides 75% of the 2000 mg low potassium restriction. It's best to avoid apricots and, most importantly, dried apricots on a renal diet. So, apricots are a high potassium food that should be avoided on a renal diet. They offer over 400 mg per cup, that is 165 gram raw, and over 1500 mg per 1 cup, that is 130 gram, that is dried apricot. Number 12. Potatoes and sweet potatoes. Potatoes and sweet potatoes are potassium rich vegetables. Just one medium sized baked potatoes, that is 156 gram, contains 610 mg of potassium, whereas one average sized baked sweet potato, that is 115 gram, contains 542 mg of potassium. Fortunately, some high potassium foods, including potatoes and sweet potatoes, can be soaked or leached to reduce their potassium contents. In fact, some research suggests that boiling potatoes can significantly decrease their potassium content, especially if you start with cold water. Soaking potatoes in water for 5 to 10 minutes could also reduce potassium by up to 20%. This method is known as potassium leaching or the double cooked method. Although double cooking potatoes lowers the potassium content, it's important to remember that their potassium content is not eliminated by these methods. Considerable amounts of potassium can still be present in double cooked potatoes. So be careful in renal diseases if you take soaked potatoes or double cooked potatoes. That doesn't mean that potassium can still be present in double cooked potatoes. So it's best to practice portion control to keep potassium levels in check. Potassium or potatoes and sweet potatoes are high potassium vegetables. Boiling or double cooking potatoes can significantly reduce their potassium content. My 13th point is tomatoes. Tomatoes are another high potassium fruit that, or you can say vegetable, that may not fit the guidelines of a renal diet. They can be served raw or stewed and are often used to make sauces. Just 1 cup, that is 245 gram of tomato sauce, can contain 728 mg of potassium. So be careful whether you are taking tomato sauces in renal disease, my dear friend. Though tomatoes are commonly used in many dishes, several substitutes are available. Choosing an alternative with lower potassium content depends largely on your taste preferences. However, swapping tomato sauces or a roasted red pepper sauce can be equally delicious and provide less potassium per serving. So you can use red pepper sauce. Now, tomatoes are another high potassium fruit that should likely be limited on a renal diet. My next 14 number is packaged instant and pre-made meals. Processed foods can be a major component of sodium in the diet. Among these foods, packaged instant and pre-made meals are usually the most heavily processed and thus contain the most sodium, my dear friend. Examples include frozen pizza, microwavable meals, and instant noodles. Yes, keeping sodium intake to 2030 300 mg per day may be difficult if you are eating highly processed food regularly, my dear friend. Heavily processed foods not only contain a large amount of sodium but also commonly lack nutrients. Packaged, instant, and pre made meals are highly processed items that can contain very large amounts of sodium and lack nutrients. It is best to limit these foods on a renal diet. Now, number 15, Swiss charged spinach and beet greens. Swiss charged spinach and beet greens are leafy green vegetables with high amounts of nutrients and minerals, including potassium. When served raw, the amount of potassium varies between 136 to 290 mg per cup, that is 30 to 38 gram. While leafy vegetables shrink to a smaller serving size when cooked, the potassium content remained unchanged. For example, raw spinach can significantly shrink when cooked. Therefore, eating 1 cup of cooked spinach will contain a much higher amount of potassium than 1/2 cup of raw spinach. Raw Swiss chard, spinach, and baked grains are preferably cooked grains to avoid too much potassium. However, moderate your intake of this food. They are also high in oxalates. Among sensitive individuals, oxalates can increase the risk of kidney stones. Kidney stones may further damage renal tissue and decrease kidney functions. Leafy green vegetables like Swiss chard, spinach, and beet grains are full of potassium, especially when served cooked. Although their serving sizes become smaller when cooked, their potassium contents remain the same. My next point is 16 point is dates, raisin, and prawns. Dates, raisin, and prawns are common dried fruits. When fruits are dried, their nutrients are concentrated. These includes potassium. For example, 1 cup, that is 174 gram of prawns, provides 1270 mg of potassium, which is nearly 5 times the amount of potassium found in 1 cup, that is 165 gram of plums, its raw counterpart. Moreover, just 4 dates provides 668 mg of potassium. Given, moreover, just 4 dates provides 668 mg of potassium. Given the high amount of potassium in these common dried fruits, it's best to go without them while on a renal diet to ensure your potassium levels remain favorable. Now, nutrients are concentrated when fruits are dried. Therefore, the potassium content of dried food, including dates, prawns, and raisins, is extremely high and should be avoided on a renal diet. My 17th and last point is, last not the least, point is chips, crackers. Ready to eat snacks, foods like chips, crackers tend to be lacking in nutrients and relatively high in salt. Also, it's easy to eat more than the recommended portion size of these foods, often leading to an ever greater salt intake than intended. What's more, if chips are made from potatoes, they will contain a significant amount of potassium as well. Now, chips and crackers are easily consumed in large portions and tend to contain high amounts of salt. Additionally, chips made from potatoes provide a considerable amount of potassium. Kidney friendly recipes. Kidney friendly diet requires limiting several foods, which can be challenging. However, there are many nutritious, delicious recipes that you can still enjoy as part of a balanced kidney diet. Here are a few tasty options available from the National Kidney Foundation that I mentioned right now. Chicken and zucchini, pumpkins, pancakes, Mexican style stuffed peppers. Be sure to make adjustments as needed depending on your specific needs and preferences. A renal dietitian can also recommend a kidney friendly recipe to help round out your diet. There are many nutritious recipes available that can easily fit into a renal diet. If you can also adjust recipes based on your needed and preferences. How are dietary restrictions for kidney disease determined? Your specific dietary restrictions will depend on your stage of kidney disease. For instance, people with early stages of chronic kidney disease will have different dietary restrictions than those with end stage renal kidney disease or kidney failure. Those with end stage kidney disease who require dialysis, like my father, also have varying dietary restrictions. Dialysis is a type of treatment that removes extra water and filters waste. Most of those with late or end stage kidney disease need to follow a kidney friendly diet to avoid a buildup of certain chemicals or nutrients in the blood. If those with chronic kidney disease, this kidney cannot adequately remove excess sodium, potassium, or phosphorus. As a result, they are at a higher risk of elevated blood levels of these minerals. A kidney friendly diet or renal diet usually limits sodium to under 2300 milligrams per day, as well as your potassium and phosphorus intake. The National Kidney Foundation's most recently kidney disease outcomes quality initiative, that is KDQQI guidelines, don't set specifically limits on potassium or phosphorus. Potassium and phosphorus are still a certain for people with kidney disease. Still, they should work closely with a doctor or dietitian to determine their personal limits for those nutrients, which are usually based on lab results. Damaged kidneys may also have trouble filtering the waste products of protein metabolism. Therefore, individuals with chronic kidney disease of all stages, especially stage 3 to 5, should limit the amount of protein in their diets unless they are on dialysis. However, those with end stage kidney disease undergoing dialysis have an increased protein requirement, my friend. Frequently asked question: what foods help your kidneys work better? The best things you can do to help your kidneys work better is to eat a well balanced diet full of nutritious vitamins rich foods that are low in sodium, potassium, and phosphorus. Some examples include tofu, cheese that's low in phosphorus, such as goat cheese, grated mozzarellas, and Monterey Jack, Swiss cheese, milk alternatives such as oat, soya, or rice, healthy cooking oils such as olive oil, sunflower oil, and sesame meals. Fish, fresh fruits like strawberries, blueberries, apple, and pomegranates. Beans also. Is peanut butter good for the kidneys? Peanut butter is also a good source of plant-based protein. It's naturally low in carbohydrate and has plenty of fiber to aid digestions. It's good substitute for meat in kidney diet plan. However, it's worth nothing that 2 tablespoons of peanut butter also has 65 milligrams of oxalate, and high amounts of oxalate can contribute to kidney stones, that is 44 to 45. Talk with your doctor. I always said my blog, if you are prone to kidney stones, as you may want to avoid or reduce your peanut butter consumption. Also, when purchasing peanut butter, be sure to look for brands that don't add extra salt and sugar. My next question is chocolate bad for the kidneys? Dark chocolate is rich in antioxidants and has actually been shown to reduce certain markers of inflammations in people undergoing dialysis. Still, chocolate is high in calories and added sugar and contains some phosphorus and potassium. Therefore, it's best to enjoy in it in moderations as a part of well-rounded diet, especially if you have kidney disease. Are eggs bad for kidneys? Eggs are highly nutritious and can often fit into a balanced renal diet. However, people following a low protein diet may need to moderate their intake depending on the amount of protein and that they are allotted each day. Next question is coffee bad for the kidneys? Enjoying the occasional cup of coffee is typically fine on a renal diet and is unlikely to affect kidney health. However, drinking 3 to 4 cups, that is 473 to 710 ml milligram daily, or adding large amounts of milk, creamer, or flour syrup may increase potassium or phosphorus levels. Additionally, drinking multiple cups is not recommended if you have been advised to restrict your fluid intake. My dear friend, the bottom line is if you have kidney disease, reducing your potassium, phosphorus, and sodium intake can be an important aspect of managing the disease. The high sodium, potassium, and phosphorus foods listed above are likely best limited or avoided. Dietary restrictions and nutrients intake recommendations will vary based on the severity of your kidney damage. Following a renal diet can seem daunting and bit restrict at times. However, working with a healthcare professional and renal dietitian can help you design a renal diet specific to your individual needs. Kidneys disease, high and low potassium foods. If you following a low potassium diet, avoid or limit high potassium foods like bananas, potatoes, and whole grains. Instead, look for low potassium foods like apples, berries, or broccoli. People who have problems with their kidneys needs to watch how much potassium they include in the diet. That is because the kidneys regulate potassium if they are not working correctly. The potassium may not be flushed out of the body properly. To minimize potassium buildup, a person with chronic kidney disease should stick to a low potassium diet of between 1500 to 2000 milligram per day. Limiting phosphorus, sodium, and fluids may also be important for people with kidney dysfunctions. General rules to avoid high potassium foods like potatoes, bananas, whole grains, milk, and tomato products. Watch portions on all foods. Be careful with coffee. The National Kidney Foundation recommends that people who should limit their potassium should limit their coffee to intake 1 cup per day. There are still plenty of nutritious, delicious, low potassium options for people with kidney disease. These include berries, squash, corn, rice, poultry, and non dairy substitutes. Certain fish, like flounder, are low in potassium, while salmon should be avoided. A plenty of beef and potatoes. The quantitatively Midwestern diet is high in potassium. But another another hearty meal, chicken and carrot, and considerable lower 3 ounce of roast beef and half cup of boiled potatoes would amount to approximately 575 mg of potassium. But the same size of portion of chicken and carrot that comes to less than 500 mg. Substituting carrot for boiled cauliflower, broccoli, and asparagus also keeps you in that ballpark. So, low potassium fruit choices. You should avoid high potassium fruits such as mangoes, bananas, papayas, pomegranates, and prawns and raisins. Bananas are also packed with potassium. Just one medium sized banana contains 425 mg. So be healthy in your life, and always, as I said in my every blog, you should always consult with your doctor and dietitian to take the right decisions. Which foods are which foods are suitable for your healthy life and for your health also. Be happy in your life. Thanks for watching my videos. If you like my uh, healthy blogs, please subscribe and share it with your friends. I need your support, my friend. Have a good day.